Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about the difference between conventional and organic. Often people buy organic because they want to protect their health and the environment because organic is a way to do these things, or at least it seems to be. Let's, in this video, look more deeply at that. What really is organic? What is are the differences within organic itself? And why did it start? And just some of the details that you might not be familiar with. I think that in this video you will learn a lot because this is my specialty. I know that this is not always a thing that my channel talks about, but I have a degree in agriculture, in sustainable agriculture, and this is the field which I have worked in for 15 years. And it's something I've been passionate about for a long time. I used to pester my mother as a teenager to buy organic, and I did notice the difference in taste between a lot of things, especially the animal products, because there really was a difference in flavor. But in this video, we're going to take an even deeper look. And it's not just going to be light and fluffy by organic. This is a video that will really kind of maybe sometimes get you to think before you just go with organic. Because there's details that go to say that organic isn't always much better than conventional. So let's look deeper at that. And what is safe and what's just a label of being safe when really it's not any better for you necessarily, it's just way more expensive. And where's that money going anyway? So let's look at that, and I am going to share my screen so that you can see I have a little slideshow too. Okay, so this is my report. Organic versus conventional. An organic gardener's report. So I would call myself an organic gardener, but I'm not certified because if you're a gardener, why are you gonna certify for $750 or whatever it is now with the USDA? No, but I do use organic practices, as you would call them. Today, we're going to look at the history of organic. What is organic? Organic is a term used since the 1800s to describe substances that make up living organisms. So organic, most of us know this word not just as a label for organic foods, but also as a word that describes the nature of life, the nature of and of a composition of organisms of the human body. So Congress mandated the creation of organic standards in 1990. Now, this was due to pressure on the government to create these standards that started in the natural agricultural back to the land movements of the 1970s and 80s. So it took until 1990 for a mandate to be made to make organic standards. Now, this mandate wasn't enacted in real practice until 12 years later in 2002, when the organic standards were created and adopted by the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The organic standards only allow substances found in nature to be used in organic agriculture? Does organic agriculture use pesticides and herbicides? What is a pesticide? A substance used to kill insects or bugs which eat crops. So you spray a pesticide on your crop to avoid it being eaten by, say, slugs or beetles. And now, what is an herbicide? An herbicide is a substance that is used to kill weeds. So, and a weed is a plant that you don't want because you're not trying to grow that. You're trying to grow tomatoes or vegetables, whatever you're trying to grow. So these are two very useful substances. If you want to save human labor, you're not going to hand pick all those weeds out or those bugs off your plants, which I, as an organic gardener, would do because I don't want to spray anything. I'm just going to be accountable. And if there are bugs on my crops, I should figure out what to do, you know. But if you're a big farm, this is something that people do now, probably for the last at least by the 70s, people were using herbicides and pesticides. I don't know the whole history of the origins of herbicides and pesticides, but definitely, you know, you have a weed problem, you have a bug problem. It's sometimes a lot easier to just spray something and have the ones you don't want die. So that is that. And does organic agriculture use pesticides and herbicides? Yes, they do. So, what is the National Organic Standards? What are they? They, the National Organic Standards is a database of approved pesticides and herbicides which are allowed on organic farms. And what is the criteria which is used to approve these pesticides and herbicides? It's basically that they need to be present in nature. They are naturally occurring substances. But what do we know about naturally occurring substances? Are they always pleasant? No, they are not. There are a lot of naturally occurring toxins that are just as harmful as artificially created toxins. In terms of being healthier or avoiding toxins, this is actually one of the things I would like to expose to you because I studied this in school, even in my organic agriculture program that we actually looked at these standards. You can find them online. You can look up and find um, any substance that's organic certified. You can check substances to see if they're organic, they meet the organic standards. But what I want to tell you is that a lot of these organic herbicides or pesticides are at least on par in their toxicity ratings with common herbicides and pesticides used by conventional farmers. So the level of safety or strength is not actually better. I love the fact that organic it's involved using things that occur in nature. That's really important to me. I do not really want to be putting anything that doesn't exist in nature into my body because um also like I love to think about chemistry and I will share with you that in chemistry I remember in organic chemistry that we learned that there are certain bonds in chemicals, chemical bonds which exist in nature and certain ones that only exist in man-made substances. So for some reason I think it's really has to do with profound, like deeply wise, like consciousness, that there are certain laws almost and structures which nature abides by, but man-made substances do not abide by these. And I want to feel in my body like a human being and not like an alien. And I feed that sense of being a human, not feeling like I'm in an identity crisis by consuming things that exist in nature, not things that are alien to my body. So, with that said, um, I did want to make this point so that people knew. really what is organic agriculture as it appears on the label of something in the supermarket. Now we're going to ask, what is conventional farming? Conventional is just a term used to describe things that are not organic. So it could be anything. In fact, like honestly, I could be described as conventional in my gardening if someone wanted to, but that would be a mistake because I don't use pesticides or herbicides. But it's just a term that we use now because we have this organic standard. So, um, in proper use, it does mean agriculture that uses man-made artificial substances in the production of crops. So, what does this mean and how can we interpret it further? There is another detail which I would like to share with you about farming. At least in the USA, about 97% of, in recent statistics, of farmland is family owned. So most farms, conventional and organic. Now, organic is a small percentage of the total farms. It's maybe 2 to 3 or so percent. And so 97% of all the farms are family owned. But if we then think about organic, and especially world organic, international organic, because a lot of the products on the shelf that are organic are actually grown in other countries. So you may buy fair trade, and that is actually insurance that there is money going to the farmer. But other organics, if you look at the price difference between conventional and organic, organic gets a higher price tag. And so, what has happened to commercial agriculture? Commercial agriculture has completely taken advantage of the organic label because they can actually make profit. Let me tell you, as a farmer, in my experience, making a profit is really hard. So, if you have a boost on the amount of money you can charge for something, that's super. So, that's why. Organic agriculture is far more corporatized in the grocery store than conventional. If you buy conventional stuff, it may have been grown on a massive monocrop field somewhere and harvested and planted by machines with the weeds controlled by pesticides. Let me tell you, they have it down to a science. So they can spend the least money on pesticides. They're not going out there and spraying massive amounts of pesticides and herbicides because they are really expensive. So every farmer that is a family-owned farmer is trying to to be economical about the amount of pesticides and herbicides that they use. So they are using the minimum that they can possibly use. And now organic. Organic farmers do have there are co-ops like Organic Valley and Stonyfield Farm and other family-owned cooperatives. That is really the safe zone with organics. But everything else with organics, you look at the company Cal Organic, which has most of the vegetables in the grocery stores that I've seen, they have massive amounts of production. This is a corporate thing. They have their own farmland. They own everything. They are making profit. I just want you to know because if you see that price difference and you go in the grocery store and you see this regular lettuce thing, head of lettuce, and it's say $2. And if you go over to the organic section and you have this same kind of head of lettuce for $4, and it's say Cal Organic or just a brand of organic, you know they're making profit. You're spending more money to buy organic, but what are you really getting? They used a pesticide, an herbicide that was put in the National Organic Standards because it occurs in nature, but in reality, it's just as harmful for your stomach as the artificial ones. And one other fact, just to top that off, I don't know how you feel or if you've heard about genetically modified crops. These are crops that are genetically modified. Their genes have been modified to contain the ability to produce within their cells pesticides and herbicides. So this means that bacteria were taken who can, like, bacteria can produce a certain compound, say BT, it's a organism, bacteria that's abbreviated BT. It produces a certain toxin in nature um, because it has a certain role in nature and it produces toxin. So these plants have the genes of this bacteria inserted into them so that they also produce this same compound produced by the Bt bacterium. So say genetically modified corn, which is it has produces Bt. It's called Bt toxin because it's toxic. This Bt corn produces a certain amount of Bt in every cell of its self. Uh, and so this toxin is toxic to bugs. So the bugs die because it dissolves their stomach lining. This is actually how Bt toxin works. It dissolves the stomach lining of the insects. So that means that there's no pest problems. Okay, so that's why farmers would buy the Bt corn because it's easy. They get this thing and it's just going and going, and they don't really have to know anything. They don't have to have any specialized knowledge. They just plant the seed, it grows, and there's no pest problems. Great, okay, easy. But they're also paid kind of low dollar for it. But anyway, so then you get the organic standards. Now, does Bt toxin exist in nature? Yes. Is Bt toxin approved in National Organic Standards? Yes, it is. So you look at the main toxin associated with gut problems and related to genetically modified crops. This is one of the main pesticides used in commercial organic growing. So you're one of those activist types. You're like, oh yeah, or you just care about your health and you're always buying organic and you really don't like GMOs. Well, excuse me, but you're getting the exact same toxin in your organic produce as in the GMOs. So, anyway, take things with a grain of salt. Be careful and put the importance in your own what's close to you, what you can control, your own feelings, your own thoughts, your garden, you know, that's what you can really make a headway. But if you want to buy organic and spend all that money, maybe it's better to go to a farmer's market or support, or just be a little bit more aware of who and what you're supporting and what you're really getting. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press like and maybe hit subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you again.